Hello, greetings. This is Keisha Naima Robertson. I am mother to Niaja Elise Brown, and today we are going to review multiplication. Now, many of you have probably already done this. I'm certain you have used arrays and used arrays to help group and sort numbers. So all of that was doing, arrays may have been introduced in kindergarten or first grade when you first started looking at numbers and adding them. So some numbers you can use your mental math for, and definitely as you get better with your multiplication tables, you can just memorize them. But I think understanding the mechanics of why you're adding, because basically what you're doing is skip counting, okay? And I'm certain you've skip counted or had to fill in patterns. All of that kind of relates back, and some of those are the prerequisite or the earlier skills you need to be able to successfully multiply, okay? So now, who's brilliant? You are. Who's intelligent? You are. And you are absolutely resilient and blessed from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet. Okay? And that's to every scholar or scholar, ally, parent, teacher, friend who is willing to work with, who is willing to watch this video to get a better understanding of how to teach, or what is one way to practice successfully completing multiplication number sentences. Okay, so now, why did I call it a number sentence? I know that sounds weird, right? Well, in math, you're just reading symbols and numbers as opposed to reading letters and words. So, and punctuation. So what we're going to do, we have two factors inside a multiplication sentence. Okay, like you have the subject and the predicate that's comprised of nouns and pronouns and verbs and adjectives and all that interesting stuff that we do in reading. We're doing the same thing. We're just doing it in math. So when we read a multiplication number sentence, we have two primary factors. The object factor is our first number. That tells you how many objects are going to be in each group. Okay? The second number is our group factor. It tells you how many groups, right, there are, or how many sets of objects are being multiplied. Okay? So, and the reason why it's technically you're adding, but it's multiplication because you're doing it by groups. Okay? And so that's why, Niaja, this is for Niaja or any other young scholar, but Niaja and I had already reviewed the ones. That's why anytime you multiply a number by one, it's that number because it's only one group. It's only one group of that number, so it's going to be the same. And that's why if you multiply it by 0, it means you don't have anything, so the number is always going to be 0. Okay, but in the event that you actually have objects that you're adding together in groups, this is what it's going to look like. All right, so if you have 3 times 5, it means that I have 3 5 times. It means that I have 3 5 times. Okay, I have 3 5 times. So 3 5 times, what are you talking about? What I'm saying is this. It means that if I were going to break it down and do a diagram or illustration, it would look like this. Since my group factor is 5, I'm going to look at that first. Okay, so the first step in solving a multiplication number sentence, figure out how many groups you have. Okay, you don't have to put anything in it. You don't have to do any of that. Just figure out how many groups you have. You have 5 groups, correct? Your group factor says you have 5 groups. So we're going to start with 5 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, in those 5 groups, how many objects do we have? Our object factor tells us there's going to be 3 objects in each group. Okay, we know that we're going to have 3 objects in each group. So now let's fill them in. Box number 1 has 1, 2, 3. Box number 2 has what? 1, 2, 3. Box number 3 has what? 1, 2, 3. Box number 4 has what? 1, 2, 3. Box number 5 has what? 1, 2, 3. Because the one thing you know is that from group to group, the object factor isn't going to change. How many objects you have in each group does not change as you move through the boxes. Okay, that remains the same. The only thing that the only time it'll change is if you change the problem you're working on, and or you go to a different number sentence. So as long as you're working with the same factors, the same object and group factor, you would add accordingly. Okay, so even if you change the group factor, right, all you would do is add another group. You don't have to change how many is in each box. All right, so I hope I'm explaining it clearly. All right, so now, again, in this particular multiplication number sentence, we have 3 times 5. So that means it tells me that there are 5 times where there are 3 objects gathered, or there are 3 objects gathered together 5 times. Because the funny thing, just like in addition, regardless of how you multiply, if it's 5 times 3 or 3 times 5, the product will be the same. The only reason why it's important for you to know the difference between the object factor and the group factor is because it's the way you're dividing it. It's a big difference to divide a set of, and so let's look at our product. Our product it's a big difference in saying you have 5 groups, you have 5 objects in 3 groups, right? So let's say I say, Niaja, I am going to give you 5 gumballs 3 times a day. That's a big difference than me saying, I'm going to give you 3 gumballs 5 times a day. Okay, so you're going to get the same amount of gumballs, but you won't get them as frequently, right? So it depends. The frequency changes depending on how I break down the groups. So if I say, okay, I'll give you 5 gumballs, but I'm only going to give them to you 3 times a day. All right, that's one thing. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to give you 3 gumballs, but I'm giving them to you 5 times a day. You can get your first set in the morning. You'll get another set for a snack. You'll get another set of gumballs for lunch, another set for an afternoon snack, and another set for your right before you go to bed. All right, that's different than me saying, okay, I'm just going to give you the gumballs. You'll have 15. I'll give them to you in the morning. I'll give you some more at lunch, and I'll give you some more at dinner. So it's just the frequency or how much you get each time. That's why it's a difference. So even though it's the same number overall, it's the same sum or the same total, or in this case, when we're multiplying, we call it a product. But sum, total, and product can kind of be used interchangeably depending on the context. Okay, so I'm sorry if I'm but these are all words that you should have heard, just like in reading. You talk about context clues to kind of help you figure out the meaning. So we figure out what's the context to kind of figure out how words work together to tell us what we need to know or to provide the information needed. Okay, so that's why I'm using them interchangeably. All right, so now let's see. If we have 5 groups of 3, what do we have in total? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So our product then, or our answer, is 15. Our total, which is our answer, is 15. In multiplication, it's called a product. All right. So we have, again, how did we figure that out? Because all we have to do is count. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, so then 3 times 5 equals 15. Okay, so we had 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and we got 15. So that's basically what this multiplication sentence is doing. You're saying 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Or you're skip counting and you're saying, okay, 3 You're saying 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay? So it's the same thing. We're adding When I add 3 plus 3, I get 6. If I add another 3, I'll get 9. If I add another 3, I'll have 12. If I add another 3, I'll have 15. Okay? So our product, or the answer, or the total for the number sentence 3 times 5 equals 15. We figured that out because we looked at our object factor and our group factor to determine how many objects we have in each group and how many groups we have in total. Okay, so I hope that was clear. Okay, so we're going to do another one. Remember, every time you do your multiplication problems, you want to look at what's your object factor and what's your group factor. Okay, so now let's look at our next problem. Our next problem would be, let's say we did 6 times 4. Okay, equals. My object factor tells me how many objects I have in each group. Again, it's going to be 6 objects. All right, so this is my object factor. All right, now, how many groups or sets do I have? I have 4, so that is my group factor. All right, now 6 times 4, what does that actually mean? And we create a diagram to understand exactly what we're doing in our mind. So now let's look at this. If my group factor is 4, how many groups do I need? Can you tell me? 4 groups. Very good. Where do we find the group factor? It's right here. This is my group factor because before I can put the objects in a group, I want to have space for them. So let's create our spaces first. We know we have 4 groups or 4 sets, okay? So let's create 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So now I have 4 groups. Okay, because I looked at my multiplication number sentence, and I know that I have 4 groups. Now I have to look at my other factor. What's my second factor? What's the other factor I have to think about? My object factor, right? It tells me how many are going to be in each group. It says there are going to be 6 objects for each group, right? 6 objects in each group. Okay, let's look at it. Now, let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's my first group. My second group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I have a third group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I have a fourth group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So what this actually is I'm saying 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Okay? So again, I'm adding 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 to get my final answer. So now all I have to do is actually count them. So I know that I have 6, let me put it on top here. I'm going to change the color. We'll work in green. 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, so if I were skip counting, it would look like what it looks on the top. 6, 12, 14, 6, 12, 18, 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, my handwriting. Can you see my penmanship? That's why I tell you penmanship is so important. Make sure you've written your name. I haven't Niaja, if you're watching, I definitely need you to make sure you write your name, date, and subject on your paper. Okay? Name, date, and subject on your paper. All right. You have 6, 12, 18, and 24. Okay, 6, 12, 18, and 24. In order to get a final answer of 24. So the answer or the product to the number sentence 6 times 24 is 24. Okay, so if asked, 6 times 4 equals 24. This is what it looks like if we were to illustrate it. We have 4 groups, and in each group we have 6 objects. Okay, so now let's do another one. Okay, so now we're just going to go straight into practices, and we'll do a few more, and then I will finish up this video. Okay, so now let's do let's do 4 times 5. Okay, 4 times 5 equals. All right, so what is my group factor? Meaning, how many groups do I have? Because I want to draw my boxes before I get into doing anything else. Which one? Can you point, or can you tell me which one is my group factor and which one is my object factor? My group factor is what? Did you say 5? If you said 5, you were absolutely correct. So we're going to look at the bottom, and we're going to draw 5 squares. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have 5 squares. Now, what we have to do is in each square, we need to put how many objects? 4. That's right. 4 objects in each square. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each square has 4 objects. Okay, we have 4. So now, what do we need to do? We're going to add, right? So we say 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, right? But so this is just as you're developing it. Eventually, you're going to memorize your math facts, and it's your multiplication facts. 4 times 5 is 20. You will be able to know them. That's one way to do it. But I also want you to be able to understand the mechanics, because this is also preparing you to start dividing, okay? Because multiplication is the inverse or the opposite operation for division, and division is the inverse or opposite operation of multiplication. So one thing, you're pulling things together, the other one, you're breaking it down. Now, the difference is it's not subtraction, because you're not getting rid of anything. You're just breaking down how we see them. Okay, so it's the same amount there, it's just how it's presented. Okay, does that make sense to you? I hope so, because sometimes I can talk a whole lot, and Miaja, I know you're like, Mommy, I want to explain it myself. So since we're not interacting directly, I can't listen to you explain it to me. So 4 times 5 is actually equal to 20. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write out some multiplication problems for you to do in order for you to practice, okay? And you're going to do these on your own. And remember, you're going to make sure that each time you look at the object factor and the group factor to figure out your total product, okay? So now, let's see. Our object factor will be our first number. So I'm going to give you 5 problems to do on your own. Let's see. The first one will be 2 times 7. The second one is 3 times 9. The third one is going to be 6 times 4. The next one is going to be 8 times 3. And the last one would be 5 times 5. Okay? So I'm going to pause for a moment and give you some time to practice these on your own. And when we come back, when I start the video again, we'll go over the answers, okay? So again, I'm going to hold these up like this. If you want to pause, you can pause so that you can write down all the problems, okay? So we're going to pause right here. I'm going to hold off. You will write down the problems. Again, you have 2 times 7, 3 times 9, 6 times 4, 8 times 3, and 5 times 5. Why don't you put a circle around, a square around the, a circle around the, sorry, a square around the group factor, okay? And then I want you to put a circle around the object factor. Okay, so you'll put a square around each group factor and then a circle around the object factor. Remember, the group factor tells you how many groups you have. The object factor tells you how many objects are in each group. Okay, so we did this. I already did this one. So I want you to do the same for all the other ones. And then I want you to go ahead and solve it, creating an illustration. Okay, so we'll do an illustration. Remember, you're going to do, the first thing you do is create your boxes of how many groups you have. So in this case, in the first one, where the group factor is 7, we would have to draw 7 squares. Okay, leave them blank. Then you go over to your object factor and you would fill it in with 2 objects per square. And then you count how many you have in total, and that'll give you your product. Okay? So step 1, I want you to put a square around your group factor. Step 2, put a circle around your object factor. Step 3, draw out the number of empty squares indicated by your group factor. So here it's 7. You would draw out 7 squares. Okay. Then what I'd like you to do after you've drawn out your empty groups, your number of boxes you need for indicated by your group factor, then you will go back in and fill in each box with the number inside your object factor. Okay, so in this case, it will be 2 items in each of the 7 boxes. Then count, finally, you count how many you have in total, and the answer needs to be written on the sentence, on the blank line indicated for the answer in your number sentence. So I'm going to pause, and you get 10 minutes to complete that particular, to complete that activity. Okay? Okay, so hopefully you've gone through and successfully completed all your problems. And right now we're just going to review the answers. Okay, so now remember, each problem, what I asked you to do first is to put a circle around your object factor, okay, and then put a square around your group factor in order to find your total product. Okay, so now let's look at this. So here, how many groups do we have in our first problem? Did you say 7? That's correct. I mentioned that prior to us taking our break, taking a pause, right? So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now we have 7 groups. All right, how many objects do we have to have in each group? Well, we look at our object factor, and it is a what? It is a 2. Very good. So that means that in each square, we are going to have how many objects? 2. Very, very good. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so now this is the same or the equivalent or equal to saying, so 2 times 7 is equal to saying 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Okay? So we have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Okay? So our total is what? 14. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 more is 6, plus 2 more is 8, plus 2 more is 10, plus 2 more is 12, plus 2 more is 14. So our answer equals 14. So 2 times 7 equals 14. Very, very good. Okay, so if you got the answer 14, you are a brilliant scholar and you answered it correctly. If for whatever reason you got a different answer, it's okay. Correct. Take a moment. You can pause it if you need to make sure you've written it correctly. Write it down correctly. Fix your answer. And then we're going to try it again. Okay, so that's why I gave you more than one problem. Okay, there's no such thing as failure. It just means figuring out how to do it better. Okay, so we all make mistakes. I make a lot of them. So if you don't learn from anybody else, learn from me because I make mistakes. And I'm glad that God grants me the grace to have an opportunity to correct them when I make them. Okay, like the last time, make sure you write your heading because I didn't put it on the board it's not enough space on this. Your name, I expect you to write name, date, and content. Okay, what are we doing? We're doing math. Okay, so yeah. All right, so that's our first problem. Let's go to the second one because now this video is already 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to do it a bit quicker, but I'd rather take the time and make sure that you understand what we're doing than to rush through it. All right, so, and I still feel kind of rushed, but like I'm rushing myself. All right, so the second problem I gave you was 3 times 9, okay? 3 times 9 equals, all right? So let's put a circle around our object factor. Can you tell me which number I should circle for my object factor? Did you say 3? If you said 3, you are absolutely correct. Now, let's put a square around our group factor. What is our group factor? Did you say 9? You are absolutely correct. Okay, so now, what's my next step? I need to draw how many boxes? How many empty boxes? Did you say 9? If you said 9, there you go again. You are brilliant. Yes, so we're going to draw 9 boxes down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we have 9 empty boxes. How many objects are going to go in each box? Did you say 3? You are correct. 3 objects in each box. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now that we've completed this, let's see how many we have in total. Well, this is just like saying 3 plus 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 3, right? But because we're multiplying, we can do it in groups. That means I have 3 plus 3. I know I have 6 plus 3 more is 9 plus 3 more will be 12 plus 3 more is 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. So 3 times 9 actually equals 27. So the product of 3 times 9 is 27. That's the same thing as saying 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, 3 plus 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 3. Right? So we added 9 sets of 3 to get the number 27. So the answer to 3 times 9 is equal to 27. Okay? Let's go to our next problem. All right, 6 times 4. So now our next number sentence is 6 times 4 equals. All right, let's put a circle around our object factor. Put a circle around the object factor. Oh, I'm sorry, I pointed. Can you tell me which one is the object factor? Did you say 6? If you said 6, you're absolutely correct. That means there are going to be 6 objects in each group or set. Okay? Now, let's look at our group factor. It's 4. Okay? Now, 6 times 4 will tell me how much is in total. So now, how many groups do I need to create? How many empty boxes do I need to draw first? We've already put a square around our group factor, so that tells us what? We need to do what? 4. Very good. Very, very good. So let's draw 4 boxes down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's put how many objects? Let's put our objects in each box. How many objects do we have to draw? 6, correct? Very good. So we have to do 6 objects in each box. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So now we have 4 groups of 6. So this is the same as saying 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Okay? 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. All right? Our total is what? You can count them. 6 plus 6 is 12. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. Okay? So 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 is equal to 24. Okay? So you can actually count them out, or you can count the sums at the bottom. 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. And that final answer is 24. Okay? All right. Let's do our last problem, our last practice problem, which is 8 times 3. So our last practice problem is 8 times 3. Let's write out our number sentence here. Okay, so if we're doing 8 times 3, again, remember you have 2 parts to you have 3 parts to your multiplication number sentence. Okay? The first thing you have is your group factor. We're going to put a square around the number that indicates our group factor. Then we're going to put a circle around the number that indicates our object factor. Okay? Now, we'll start with our group factor. How many empty boxes do we need to create? Did you say 3? You're absolutely correct. So let's put 3 boxes down here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many objects are going to go into each box, into each group or set? 8. Did you say 8? Then you're absolutely correct. So now, 8 boxes, 8 items or objects in each box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have 8 plus 8 plus 8. Now we have to get our answer. Count that up. 8 plus 8 would be 16, plus another 8, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So once we got to our sum of 8 plus 8, 16, you might be able to use your mental math for that one. If you were, you were able to say, okay, I know I have 16, so I don't have to count those individually. If you have 16, all you have to do is add the 8 to the 16, which would be 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so 8 times 3 equals 24. So our final answer or our product is 24. So if you'd like to continue practicing your multiplication problems, you can do them in the same way. After you've gotten down the mechanics of understanding what are the parts of a multiplication problem, you can use either flashcards to remember all of them, because our timetable facts, our basic timetable facts go from 0 to 12. Okay, so we've practiced from from a number of the different numbers, but now you can take them in order and go from 0 all the way up to your 12 multiplication factors, 12 multiplication facts, and practice memorizing them by the actual number sentence. So just memorizing that 8 times 3 equals 24, 3 times 3 equals 9, 3 times 4 equals 12, 3 times 5 equals 15, 3 times 6 equals 18, 3 times 7 equals 27. Okay, 3 times 3 times 9 equals 27. 3 times 10 equals 30. 3 times 11 equals 33. 3 times 12 equals 36. See, the mistake thing even works for me. When I make a mistake, I have to say, oops, made a mistake. Not going to get stressed out about it. All I have to do is fix it. Okay, so now that's the thing. So I'm going to conclude this video. It was a little bit longer than I anticipated, but hopefully you got some good practice out of it. Whether you're a parent trying to figure out new ways to present it, if this has been a difficult skill for your child to master, if this is a student that's listening, don't pay attention to my adult mumbo jumbo. Basically, you're going to put a circle around your object factor, a square around your group factors, add them up, find your final answer, which is your product, and make sure you put your product at the bottom of your answer, okay? Each time you create your diagrams, as you get better, you won't have to use the diagrams. Maybe you like to use a array. Moms and dads, I had an old muffin tin. I probably got it from the dollar store or Walmart. I got one that had rusted, painted it, got some little mushy squares or box soft objects from the dollar store, and that's how that's how my daughter and I initially used to practice, or how I introduced multiplication, sorting. And I'm certain that they started doing arrays. I know I saw it in their first grade saw it in her first grade work, so when they were doing basic addition. And I think they may even get it in kindergarten. So kindergarten, first, second, third is all leading up to this same thing. It's the same idea, the same concept. So just having them work on it and memorize it, practice makes better. When you know better, you do better. We're all a work in progress. I love and appreciate anyone who takes the time to watch this video. Prayerfully, Niaja, you've had a chance to see it, and I love you. I love you. I love you. Okay. Everyone take care. Peace.